With video games, you want a tone that complements the gameplay. Game is brainlessly blasting exploding bad guys? Give us a rock track and go all, "Are you bad enough, dude, to kill the president?" Because if your war game starts with complicated maps, mission briefings, and strategies, I'll be expecting a slower tactical kind of game. Cheerful goofiness for a silly game about cooking, or innocent cuteness for helping villagers out, or hair-raising tension and mystery for a horror game. Of course, you don't have to. You can't deliberately give the wrong tone or energy for the game, as some kind of artistic statement or for a laugh, but even then, that's a deliberate, conscious decision. Sonic usually has a mix between upbeat innocent fantasy and goofy machoism, complementing its game style well. You're hopping and running in a colorful environment, but also fast and dodging explosions and dangerous contraptions. So here we have the latest Sonic game. You're running, you're jumping, you're fighting giant robots, and for the first time in the series ever, you have unbridled freedom. No more restriction to the 2 dimensions or a strict linear pathway. The road ahead has been widened up considerably, and there's nothing but vast, exhilarating freedom for you to run and jump and battle in. So obviously the tone you're going for in this experience is crippling depression. Okay, I'm being a dick here. Game's not really that depressing. The tone is more sober, restrained, somber. Kinda, I don't know, Monday morning it rains and you have a long boring school/work week ahead of you kind of vibe. I'm just gonna keep calling it a depressing tone because the contrast between the tone and the gameplay style is so comically large to me. Now, arguments on logic and nerdiness aside, although trust me, those will come, fact of the matter is, tone just clicks or doesn't click. You like it or not. We can debate it until doomsday, but when the energy or soul of a product appeals to you, it appeals, and if it doesn't, it just doesn't. And for me, Frontiers just doesn't click at all. However, I kind of want it to work for me, so I'm desperately searching for a hook. Something in terms of its gameplay or its story that suddenly allows the rainy Monday tone of the game to kind of make sense to me, to work for me, which is what I'm going to explore in this video. Now, Sonic Forces kind of had the same kind of vibe, despite me thinking that game should have gone more for a theatrical, hammy, epic tone. Eggman taking over the world and all this reality warping stuff kind of falls flat when the entire game is so dry and lifeless about it all. So now I'm desperately hoping that Frontiers makes better use of whatever it's doing, and that the tone genuinely helps the game out, rather than just Sonic Team putting a sad hat on their product and calling it a day. But before I get into the video, first a word from my sponsor.
Greetings!
And that was the word from my sponsor. Also, before I start, I need to make a few points clear. Uno. Yes, the game is not out yet. I'm just exploring some of my premature concerns. When the finished game proves me wrong, do feel free to point and laugh at me while I eat my words in the final review. Duo, focus here is on the tone of the entire project, not a single scene. It's not like this is an upbeat product for the most part, it just happens to have a couple context-appropriate sad moments in it. No, the sober atmosphere is drenched all over this game from start to finish. Trio, I'm not inherently against Sonic being more somber. I mean, heck, I'm a big fan of Sonic's ATM, the primary depressing Sonic experience before this game. The point I'm going to be making in this video isn't so much sad Sonic is bad, but more, is the sadness appropriate, which is a different point, and I'll bring up comparisons with Sonic's ATM or whatever whenever it's appropriate to demonstrate. In particular, in this video, I'll be looking at the gameplay, the game construction of the game, more than the story. Because with the story, at this point, we don't really have much to go off yet. It's all clouded in mystery. Fitting for a mystery game, I suppose. And yes, I've seen an interview Sonic Team mentioning that the somber tone is exclusively for the story rather than the gameplay, which is kind of ballsy if you think about it. I mean, now you're letting the story completely run with the atmosphere of the whole game, and this game is supposed to be this dramatic reveal of a brand new Sonic game phase. I mean, at least Sonic Adventure's story tone wasn't at odds with the gameplay vibes, but, whatever. And final point, the video editing is going to be considerably more lazy from this point on because I'm kind of busy with other projects, so want to get this video out of the way, sorry. Now, let's go. Open Zone, that's the name of the game. Every preview, video, and interview shouts it out loud. There's a brand new game genre in town, and it's called Open Zone. And Sonic Team is at the helm of this brand new phenomenon. Sonic Frontiers, the game exploring this new frontier of game design. I get the title now. Don't you dare calling this game an open world game or compare it to Zelda Breath of the Wild. This is Open Zone, thank you very much. But then, one day, something horrific happened. Something shocking. Someone actually asked Sonic Team what an open zone actually is. And Sonic Team is all like, shit. Well, you see, open world is like an adventure game, but an open zone is like the open world is an action game. Whoa! Shots fired there, Sonic Team. Wow. Ha! You hear that, Grand Theft Auto, Saints Row, Far Cry? You are mere adventure games, but this game has action in it. Ooh. Yeah, I bet Just Cause is shaking in its boots. Man, it sounds like a kid who didn't do their homework. Hey, Timmy, tell the class about King George III. Well, he was a guy who did action things. Right, thanks, Timmy. Now, to be fair, now, after months of reading Sonic Team stumbling over themselves, I finally understand what they actually meant. Now I understand their clumsy description. But at the time I heard this for the first time, it sounded stupid as heck. Not helping was that, at this point, I'm allergic to Sonic Team mentioning the word action game, because that's always the brainless face they use when referring to their games. Fast, linear, 3D action game, even when talking about Sonic Colors, which, to my sensibilities, is literally none of these words for most of its running time. So forgive me when my sarcasm levels go up to level 50 whenever I see a description like this from Sonic Team. Well, Roger, that's your problem for being a dick. All normal people perfectly understood what Sonic Team said. Well, yes, except, no, lots of people didn't get it, in fact. There were headlines all over the place. Sonic fans, dumb morons who don't understand Sonic Team's genius. Everyone confused what open zone game is. Oh, whoops. Don't worry, everyone. Sonic Frontiers director Morio Kishimoto to the rescue to educate us, plebs. All right, sir, Sensei, take the mic and educate us. Here's Open Zone in a nutshell. It's a world map as you see in other level-based platformers, but this time it's playable. And then he brings up Mario 3's world map in particular. Aha, so Sonic Frontiers is that, but playable, whatever that means. I see. So there's nothing that provides any challenge, and you move on rails. I mean, hey, that's a perfect description of modern Sonic Team's gameplay, so good for you on being honest with us, Sonic Team. Although something tells me that wasn't what he meant. So yeah, if we fans were confused what Sonic Frontiers was before, now we definitely are confused. I mean, I am. I'm just gonna assume the reason for this comparison is to cyberspace levels, since at the time of their interview, those weren't revealed yet. Still, if the best you can say about your brand new game genre-defying gameplay is that it's merely a fancy level selection screen for the exact same levels people were bored by in Sonic Forces, you're not doing yourself any favors here, are you? And I have to admit, I am kind of weirded out with the term open zone anyway. Why? Well, imagine, we know nothing about Sonic Frontier so far. All we know is that Sonic and friends go to the Starfall Islands in this open zone game. So I hear that, and I think, hey, islands with a wacky name. That's classic Sonic. Open zones. Oh, that's the colorful classic and advanced games. But then you show me this, and it's like a mental slap in the face. Like, ow! Like, ooh! To me, open zone, Starfall Islands, that's classic Sonic vocabulary. The serious 3D Sonic games don't use zones. They have action stages, or don't even bother with a wacky name. Like Starfall Islands, that sounds like a Super Mario location. A place like this should have a pretentious, edgy, artsy name, like Kronos or something. Oh, it is actually called Kronos. Oh, there we go. Hey, good job, Sonic Team. And the other island is Ares Island? Ah, the god of horrific war. Nice. So you give the island group a fun, happy name. The Rainbow and Puppies Islands. Yay! And then you give the individual island names like Hades, Island of Death. Ah, Roger, you ass clown. You're taking this open zone thing way too serious. It's just a marketing phrase. It's like that thing with the first Sonic game, the blast processing that game was all about. It means nothing. It's just a fancy word for the marketing to make their game look more special. You know, fair enough. That's a good argument. That is probably the case. Like, they hear everyone comparing their game with Zelda Breath of the Wild, and they have to figure out some kind of marketing trick to kind of like, no, we're super original, trust me. But whatever. This is just a pointless side tangent. I'm just pointing and laughing at Sonic Team because I'm a cynical bastard. Now, let's really get to the point. What actually is an open zone? Now, believe it or not, eventually someone at Sonic Team actually realized they were just making things worse, and we got a rare moment of clarity when they actually explained what was going on. And here it is. A lot of people are thinking our game is an open world game, but it's actually an open zone game, Izuka insists. When we talk about open world games, there's this big map, and you're at point A, but you need to go over to point B. They're more about walking for a long time to get to the next city, and then you get there, and then there's where the world stuff happens, and that's the exact opposite of what we're thinking. The open zone is more of a playground. We're making a huge area that's filled with places to run around in and play in. It's not like you have to go to a city and ride a horse to get there. You get to play everywhere you go, so the movement and the action is the fun, and not getting to the next city. Aha! So there you have it. Now, open world games do try to make the in-between areas fun with side activities too. So basically, open zone game is exactly a normal open world game, just with the more labor-intensive parts of it removed. Leave the Sonic team to proudly declare themselves amazing for doing less work. Okay, I'm being a dick. So an open zone game is when the side activities are actually the primary gameplay, right? But yeah, so that's why they referred to this game as an action game rather than an adventure game. Not so much that there's action in it, but more about the focus, the speed, the efficiency of the gameplay design. Instead of being dropped into a neutral environment that's mostly driven by the world, by story, and then by having to move to specific locations where a specific story-driven mission is carried out, here the environment is always the mission, and there's not really any kind of story focus. It's just constant gameplay elements around you. Always item collecting, platforming, bosses, fights, battles, side activities, non-stop around you. So in hindsight, if we were to compare Frontiers with Mario, I guess it would be less Mario 3's world map, but more a giant Mario 64 course. Open playground where you can hop around and do whatever you like to do in any order you like, but then include the Mario Sunshine Challenge areas as cyberspace levels. Everything is optional, everything is the player's decision. You just have fun. You fight, you jump, you run around, and hey, as long as you keep collecting those video game MacGuffins, those power stars basically, eventually you unlock the next boss and then get the next section of the game. Now, I could be an asshole. I am an asshole, and point out that there have been open world games that had this kind of structure before, like the original two Grand Theft Auto games. They didn't really give a damn if you did the story missions or not. All that matters to those is that you have a certain amount of cash by the end of the level, regardless of how you get it. Just Cause 2 also has a similar structure that, outside of a handful of story missions, most of the game is just doing whatever the hell you want up until you gain enough chaos points to unlock the next story missions. But whatever, I'm just happy that we finally know what we're dealing with, and admittingly enough, even though I have a couple examples of other games doing this, it's not really the typical open world game structure, so there you go. It's an open area, and you're completely free. You know, no boring story missions that waste your time by setting up mysteries or the stupid tone. No traveling to locations where lesser game designers would just insert some exposition or some boring atmosphere to set up their stupid mystery or their stupid somber tone. This game has none of that. No stupid story, no stupid atmosphere, no somber mysterious stuff getting in the way of you just having fun. You're just running, jumping, fighting, free as the wind, just as Sonic would be. Just you blasting off joylessly in this wide open fun sandbox. It's one big happy playground. Except a playground with the atmosphere of a funeral. Leading me right back to my original question. Why is this game so somber? Specifically, why does Sonic Team design this game as a happy collect-a-thon platformer that focuses on freedom, speed, action, things I don't tend to associate with crippling depression, and then add this atmosphere to it? This game feels like it's Sonic Team copying the game design of a happy Super Mario-style game, but then shoving the atmosphere of a Last of Us game in there, with zero thought on if those two elements really connect together. Just, hey, this is popular and makes money, this is popular and makes money, boom, now we're twice as popular and we'll make twice the amount of money. See, this is one of my biggest concerns about Sonic Frontiers, because this has been my concern with games that we had before, that Sonic Team is like adding two completely disconnecting things together without any thought if they really fit together, and it really kind of frustrates me. I mean, so far, everyone seems to be super excited and positive about the game. Everyone loves the playground aspect of the game. Everyone says it's fun to run around and fight and jump and do all the fun things. But I've seen nobody really question the tone of if that really makes sense with what you're doing. Maybe because I'm the only person on the planet who cares, I guess. Because when I think of somber games, I think of limitation. I think of a character who's weaker than their opposition, or scared, or at the very least very careful. I mean, sure, Solid Snake can kick some ass, but he has to be smart about it. He can't go in guns a-blazing. And for Solid Snake, it isn't a happy occasion either. I mean, Metal Gear Solid doesn't end with a guitar riff and a thumbs up. It ends with Snake and his companions completely exhausted and broken from the experience. It's a struggle. You're trapped in these claustrophobic locations, there's scary monsters and opponents around you that you don't fully understand, that can't fully handle. I mean, even Sonic CTM, the other somber Sonic experience. I mean, sure, Sonic is still heroic and fast, but it's done way more strategically. He does his heroics in calculated short bursts when he has his friends around for assistance. He can't just barging in without a care in the world. Well, at least in the first season. The second season kind of ruined it. A somberness, to me, needs some kind of limitation, some kind of feeling that you're trapped and little and helplessly outnumbered, and only extreme bravery, cleverness, and a little luck can give you any hope of success. And to be fair, Frontiers is kinda attempting to do a couple of these things. I mean, here's a cutscene of a robot punching Sonic through a couple rocks. So clearly he's overwhelmed in this sequence. In fact, he should be completely dead in this sequence, but whatever. Time will tell if he merely gets up with a one-liner or actually needs some time to recuperate, to heal. So, there's some elements here that hint that Sonic Frontiers might justify its sadness through its story. However, through the design of the gameplay itself, I'm not really seeing it because the game is completely designed to focus on being awesome and free, which is what you want out of a Sonic game, a heroic, macho, happy one. But if you go out of your way to make your game somber, I kind of expect you to work that into your experience. Now, granted, even freedom can be an oppressive force that breaks your spirit. Think of being lost and thirsty in a desert, where having a giant, wide-open landscape in front of you is curse rather than a blessing. Fallout kind of plays this trick. But yeah, Sonic Frontiers has smaller open areas, and is designed that there's constantly items to collect, enemies to fight, cyberspaces to unlock. It adds purpose and meaning to every square inch of the game, which, again, that's very good in terms of making a fun Mario-esque romp if you're running around doing fun things game, but kind of goes against the somber tone. At this point, I'm really curious how the game construction works in terms of how the story will be integrated. I mean, Sonic Team basically says they're deliberately avoiding the classical way how open-world games do their story. They're deliberately turning this game into a disconnected, happy-go-lucky playground, and we've seen Sonic rescuing Amy Rose, the first big plot beat in the game, and it involves no mission, no gameplay, nothing. You just collect the items, and there she is, free to immediately remind you of the grocery list of other items you need to collect. Ooh, somber, mysterious. Sonic Team has specifically mentioned that the somber tone is here in service of the story. The story is super sad, and that's why the game is super sad. Ha! Roger, you idiot! So here you are wasting time on talking about gameplay that's completely irrelevant to the tone. Sure, but here's the question. How is the story going to be presented in the game? I mean, here I am, just fishing with Big the Cat casually until I collected enough Chaos Gear, Star, Jiggly, whatever items. And then what? Sage just teleports in? Hey guys, having fun? Alright, yesterday there were puppies and now they're dead! Such sadness, such mystery. I mean, I guess the story will only be revealed during the once-an-island main boss battles or something, but it still kind of feels off to have the story so disconnected to everything you're doing in-game. Here you are just playing on the playground, yay! And then, ooh, suddenly you get the sad story out of nowhere, and then you go back to the playground again, whee! I don't know, to me that doesn't feel like you're really building up towards something exciting when the structure's kind of like that, but, that's just me, I guess. Speaking of story, even the story just screams Super Mario to me. I mean, you're thrown into a different dimension where there's nothing but gameplay areas, no town or people in sight. Your friends are all kidnapped like the good little Princess Peaches that they are. And to save them, no need to infiltrate a guarded fortress or anything. Even Mario does this better. All you need to do is just collect a bunch of abstract video game collectibles by doing unrelated gameplay chores and voila. Hey, we even got an annoying small female pixie girl with unclear morality that warns you about a sealed evil that will escape when all the video game items are collected or something. This whole thing sounds like the greatest hits generic Nintendo excuse plots to me, which is fine when that suits your game. Happy Playground of Rainbows the game, but when you wanted to give this somber, introspective tone, it just clashes in my brain. I mean, it's bad enough that we had Sonic games with enormous stakes before. I mean, we came fresh from Sonic Forces with Sonic being tortured, or just chilling, depending on what localization you follow, for 6 months while war was raging on the surface, not knowing whatever any of his friends were still alive, and that game still was all like...
Sounds like the party started. Want to let me go and join in? No? Of course not. You hate fun.
And look, I'm an asshole for bringing that up. It's a bit of a Simpsons did it all phenomenon, where if your series is long enough, everything has already happened at some point, and you kind of have to let it go as an audience member and kind of take each installment on its own merits. Although, I can't help but bring it up, because I feel like a parent telling their kid, see, I told you should have never had stakes that high if you'd taken it seriously. No, you do want to take the story seriously, and there's no way to go anymore. All the most over-the-top edgy plots have already been done, you idiot. If Sonic's laughing his way through the Armageddon and World War II, what can possibly break this guy? And then the cherry on top of the sundae is that when we do get a story that finally does break Sonic, the story is so... Nintendo. Princess Amy's been kidnapped again. Bet she was making selfies again. Boy, I sure hope I don't accidentally murder her because I wasn't paying attention again. Roger, you subhumanly brain-dead fart gurgler, you say. It's a good thing Sonic's more mature about it, right? Do you want him to be a dick? No, you don't. And besides, the whole somber tone, it makes the game feel more mature, right? So the whole point isn't that the story is even more over the top. Oh no, now there's 5 Dark Chaos who's going to destroy the entire galaxy, even more. No, the point is that it's more restrained, more mature, more human. Little hedgehog. Somberness isn't about big bombastic spectacle. It's about small personal details. Fear of losing your friends, feelings of being lost and confused. And that's what the game is all about. That's why the tone is so somber. And that's a good point, I agree. With my own self-created strawman opponent. That would be lovely, and that would alleviate a lot of my concerns about the game, if it shows that level of maturity. So, here's hoping. So far, I haven't seen much proof that the game is really willing to go in that direction, beyond just the tone. Despite the theme of memories being a great opportunity to explore the characters a lot more in depth, the game doesn't seem to be doing much with it so far. Well, Raj, the game is not out yet. Have faith. Sonic Team is promising us that this story will be deep and serious, just like they did with Forces, and look how that turned out. Sonic Team will take this story so serious that we even get multiple prequels to set the tone for this game. So as soon as you see what those amazing prequels have to offer, you'll be fully convinced that this game will be the most mature and most insightful Sonic story we've ever seen, worthy of the somber tone of the game.
Get a load of this! Get a load of this! Get a load of this!